Two Israeli hostages are free and reunited with their families after they were rescued early Monday. Israeli forces say they rescued the two hostages, Fernando Marman and Luis Har, who were being held by Hamas in the city of Rafah. The human cost, however, was massive. Local officials said the airstrikes used in the raid killed more than 60 Palestinians, including women and children. Rafah is a crowded city sheltering more than 1 million displaced people. According to NBC News reporting, President Biden has been venting his frustration in recent private conversations over his inability to persuade Israel to change its military tactics in the Gaza Strip, even calling Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu an a-hole, according to people directly familiar with his comments. But as Biden disparages Netanyahu in private, not much has significantly changed in terms of U.S. policy toward Israel and Gaza, even as the death count soars. More than 28,000 people have been killed in Gaza since the war began, according to the Palestinian Health Ministry. Thousands more are missing and presumed dead. Joining me now is Rilla Jibril, a Palestinian policy expert and visiting professor at the University of Miami. Rilla, my friend, it is great to see you. Let's talk about this. There is a dichotomy now between what President Biden is saying privately and publicly, and also the policy hasn't changed much.
Well, if you say things privately and then your policies are you're unwilling to change your policy, it means nothing. I mean, look at the frustration of the European chief diplomat, Borrell, who's a very moderate guy who today came. If you really believe, and this was pointed out to President Biden, if you believe that they're killing too many people, they're going over the top, then ultimately, you have to cut military aid. You have to stop military aid. I mean, for Borrell to say that, it indicates that the Europeans are shifting. Already you have the Netherlands, Spain, Belgium. They already are not sending weapons. You're already seeing a shift in Europe where they're saying we distance ourselves from these kind of policies. They're unwilling to stand with Bibi Netanyahu. What they consider is zero-sum genocidal policies. And it's jeopardizing national security for them, for Europeans, for the Israelis themselves, and for the Americans.
And, you know, the ostensive reason for this is to return I think about 130 hostages remaining. But the ratio, 2 hostages freed for 60 Palestinians, but it's much more than that because of the missing and dead. Over the weekend, the story of a little girl named Hind, a beautiful little 6-year-old girl who the 911 call to the Red Crescent went around the world. These are the kinds of stories we're seeing. Her body was found. She was found dead in the vehicle in which she was fleeing, trying to get to safety. These are the stories that people are seeing. This is what's impacting the attitude toward the war.
12,000 children in the course of 4 months being killed. We know that children are dying now as we speak of starvation. The use of starvation as a weapon of war is illegal. The story of Hind is the story of many people, but we heard Hind begging for mercy, begging for help on a phone call. And Joy, you talk about the hostages. Ultimately, they freed 2 hostages. But 30 were killed by Israeli bombardment. The only time we had any hostage release is by negotiation.
Yeah.
There's no military solution to this conflict. There's only a diplomatic one. And what Netanyahu is doing, he's bragging that he is fighting with Biden because he benefits from that politically. But he's expanding the war to the West Bank while all eyes on Gaza, on Rafah, on the onslaught, on the slaughter of Rafah. What's happening in the West Bank? Tonight, they burned down a village, Hawara, an entire village, the village that a finance minister was calling to wipe it out. We see in Jerusalem, in East Jerusalem, in my neighborhood, under my neighborhood, hundreds chanting of extremist Jewish settlers saying, kill all the Arabs. Sadly, if the United States doesn't intervene to stop this mass killing of Palestinians, what the world consider as Bibi Netanyahu's policy of extermination of Palestinians, President Biden has a responsibility to protect. And he's not only doing anything, he's actually seems to be, privately venting, but unwilling and unable to do anything. I mean, today he had a conversation in the White House with some people from the regions, and the only thing he was focused on, the people from the region, is let's wait and see what happened after, and maybe we can have desalination projects for Gaza. But by the time the war ends, I think there will be a thinning of the population, as Israel predicted, and there will be no Gaza. The living conditions don't exist there anymore. And Rafah is the last station, the last place. And if you're willing to not protect the civilians, which, after Rwanda, the United States developed this doctrine.
Yeah.
Our responsibility to protect the United States is compelled to protect civilians. And if he's unwilling to do that, I fear this will open the door not only for Netanyahu to erase Palestinians, for Trump to win here and for Putin to take not only Ukraine and take Europe as well.
And that's the wider picture,
Yes.
right? And the other thing that you're now seeing is an emboldening. And the
Yes.
ICJ slowed, I think, folks down for a moment. But now, I'm thinking some VO of it. People are literally blockading the aid from getting into Gaza
Yes.
and amassing themselves near the border with Egypt and saying, we're not letting any food get in.
Settlers not only blockading the aid, settlers are now chanting in every city, including inside Israel, kill all the Palestinians, kill the Arabs, exterminate them. I mean, I never seen in my lifetime soldiers uploading their own pictures, committing war crimes. We're living in a situation where not only Palestinians are streaming the atrocity they are being subjected. We're seeing actually Israeli soldiers bragging about that
on social media.
This comes from one thing. Lack of accountability, a sense of impunity, but above all, unconditional support and lack of scrutiny in the media of these policies. And that's why they feel emboldened.
Rula Jibril, thank you. An expert in the region, and I always value your voice. Thank you so much. And